A long time ago, there was a man named Abraham. He lived in a land where people worshipped statues made of stone. These statues were called idols, and people believed they had special powers. They would pray to them, bring them food, and ask them for help. But Abraham started to wonder, how can these statues help anyone? They can't move, they can't talk, and they can't even protect themselves. So why do people worship them? Even as a child, Abraham felt in his heart that something wasn't right. He wanted to find out the truth. One night, Abraham looked up at the sky and saw a bright, shining star. It was so beautiful that he thought, maybe this is my Lord. But when the sun rose, the star disappeared. He knew that something that disappears cannot be God. Then he saw the moon, big and glowing. Could this be my Lord? But again, when the sun came up, the moon was gone. And then he saw the sun, the biggest and brightest of them all. This must be my Lord. But as night came, the sun also disappeared. That's when Abraham understood the truth. He said, my Lord is the one who created the sun, the moon, and the stars. He is the one who made everything. I will worship only him. Abraham wanted to help his people see the truth. So he asked them, why do you pray to these statues? They can't hear you, they can't help you, and they can't even move. Why not worship the one who created everything? But the people didn't like what he was saying. They were used to worshiping their idols because their parents and grandparents had done the same. They said, this is our tradition. Who are you to question it? Even Abraham's own father, who made these idols, was angry. He told Abraham to stop talking about it. But Abraham couldn't stay quiet. He knew that only God was worthy of worship. One day, when everyone left the town for a festival, Abraham saw his chance. He went into the big temple where all the idols stood. He looked at them, rows and rows of statues, all standing silently. Abraham picked up an axe and started smashing the idols, one by one. Pieces of stone fell to the ground, but he left the biggest idol standing. Instead, he put the axe in its hands. When the people returned, they were shocked. Who did this to our gods? They shouted. Someone said, it must be Abraham. He's always speaking against them. So they brought Abraham and asked, did you do this? Abraham pointed at the biggest idol and said, ask him. He has the axe. The people were silent. They knew their idols couldn't talk. They couldn't defend themselves. Abraham then asked, if they can't even speak, why do you worship them? The people became angry. Instead of admitting he was right, they decided to punish him. The rulers of the town, led by a powerful king named Nimrod, ordered Abraham to be burned alive. They built a huge fire, so big and hot that no one could go near it. Then they made a giant catapult and threw Abraham into the flames. But God protected him. He commanded the fire, be cool and peaceful for Abraham. The fire lost its heat. It didn't burn Abraham at all. When the people saw this, they were shocked, but still, they refused to believe in God. Abraham knew he could no longer stay in that land. The people would never listen, and the king was against him. So he left, traveling to different places, always spreading the message of one God. Years passed, and Abraham got older. He wanted children, but he and his wife Sarah had none. Then God blessed him with a son, Ismail. Abraham loved him dearly, and he was so grateful to God. One night, Abraham had a dream. In the dream, God told him to sacrifice his son, Ismail. This was a test, one of the hardest tests a person could ever face. Abraham loved his son, but he also knew that God's wisdom was greater than his own. If God commanded something, it must be for a reason. He told his son, my dear son, I had a dream that I must sacrifice you. What do you think? Without hesitation, Ismail said, oh my father, do as you are commanded. You will find me patient, inshallah. So Abraham took his son to a quiet place. He laid him down, ready to follow God's command. But just as he was about to do it, a voice called out, oh Abraham, you have passed the test. Abraham looked up and saw a ram sent from heaven. God had never wanted him to actually sacrifice his son. He only wanted to test Abraham's faith. Instead of Ismail, God told him to sacrifice the ram. Abraham had passed the greatest test of trust and obedience. Because of his unwavering faith, God made Abraham a leader of nations. He and his son Ismail later built the Kaaba in Mecca, a place where people would worship the one true God for generations to come.